Welcome to the Reformation Charlotte podcast. I am your host, Jeff Maples. Today, I want to show you some things that have been uncovered about Russell Moore and the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission and their allies. Honestly, this is nothing new. We already know who they are and what their agenda is. But some interesting things came out today about one of Russell Moore in particular, his allies, as far as pushing the COVID-19 vaccine. He has enlisted multiple times over the last year or so Dr. Francis Collins, the NIH director. He has enlisted him because he is a professing Christian. He claims to be a conservative, Bible-believing Christian, and even wrote a book about something about practicing medicine while not losing your soul, something to that effect. Being the courage to stand in the midst of medical tyranny, all while his institution is pushing some really weird stuff that I'm going to show you. So the first thing that came out today was something that was found by Woke Preacher Clips. And let's see here. He was recently interviewed by Ed Stetzer. Now, Ed Stetzer used to be one of the former directors of Lifeway, which is the publishing branch of the Southern Baptist Convention, if you don't know that. And Ed Stetzer is a leftist, by the way, very wishy-washy, soft on the gospel, ecumenical, social justice-y type person. And he's been in a number of leadership positions. I think he is now still at Wheaton College, doing a bunch of liberal stuff over there. But to his credit, he recently interviewed Francis Collins, and he pressed him on why evangelicals should trust the NIH or the government-funded, government-sponsored medical industry as a whole, when they're pushing a bunch of godless ideology, like changing the name of mothers to pregnant persons, for example. That was one of the questions, and to his credit, Ed Stetzer asked him that pointedly, and pretty much got shut down by Collins. And it was kind of odd because Collins is like I said, a professing Christian, a professing conservative Christian, and says that he believes in the scriptures, and that's important to him. So instead of this is a transcript, but instead of reading all that, I'll just play the interview for you. This is what Woke Preacher Clips posted on YouTube today.
A lot of people are suspicious of a lot of the apparatus that you oversee. You oversee different roles that are ultimately there. Some of that comes from what I briefly mentioned is the changing guidance on masks, which I think, was a mistake. I think the former Attorney General talked about how they shouldn't have done that way. But also, too, it's the question of, and I got to tell you, for me, I tell people, believe the CDC. And then I see people from the CDC go on and change language about mothers to pregnant persons and things of that sort. So it's hard for me. It's becoming increasingly hard for me in the last few months, as one who wants to be your champion, when the apparatus that is under NIH and all the health stuff seems to have been caught up in some of the currents of the day. So why should I, as an evangelical Christian who believes that mothers have children, and yet that's different language now coming from different parts of areas you oversee, then say, but what they're saying about the virus, which I believe, remember, I'm on your team, but I'm having to answer these questions to people in my churches. So how would you answer that as a fellow evangelical that I trust?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's probably not a surprise to any of us that all human institutions have flaws. And that certainly applies to government institutions and to churches as well. They're created by human beings. We have this incredible wisdom that is poured into rusty vessels.
Notice how heavily Ed Stetzer is trying to legitimize this guy, by the way. An evangelical that I trust. I'm on your side. This, that, and the other. They are pushing this guy heavy because they want this guy to be the guy that convinces evangelicals to take the vaccine, basically. That's what it boils down to.
And it doesn't always come out quite the way you would like. And so be a little bit accepting of the fact that institutions are always going to have these flaws. But then try to look past that. And again, let's come back to this issue about what is the truth. And if there's something I'm really worried about, more than even COVID-19, it's this sense that we've become unmoored from an appreciation that truth is what really matters, that we will be guided by that. And if we start to...
And you see what he's doing here. The bottom line is he's absolutely refusing to denounce this stuff that the CDC is doing with this language and unscientific, postmodern stuff where they're calling mothers and women pregnant persons and birthing persons and things like this. He won't denounce that. And he's just making excuses for it and saying, let's just look past it. I might not, be totally on board with that. But, it doesn't really. You should trust us anyway because we're the sciencey people. We're the medical people. We're the ones that know what we're doing.
Step away from that. Even if we don't like the message, well, where will we be? And this is not just the secular world that's all about alternative facts. It's the church too. If we've lost that, if the truth is what we need to set us free, well, the alternative is not a place that is going to have a future. So yeah, okay, go ahead and be frustrated about institutions that don't say.
Now he's trying to implicate the church and say, well, by the way, it's not just us that's doing this. It's you guys too. It's the church. It's us. It's the religious community. So, maybe we should, think about worrying about what we do and what we say before we worry about what the CDC and what the medical community does, which is absolutely absurd to its core. The true church, the true Bible-believing evangelical Christian church of born-again, Bible-believing Christians does not think this way. Of course, there's the false church out there that does this, the PCUSA, the United Methodists, and the ELCA, ordaining transgender, whatever you want to call them. But no, the Church of God is not doing this. But this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to shift the blame here and say, well, it's not really about us. It's worry about yourself. Let us worry about this.
Say things quite the way you want. I hear you. But ask, what's the truth here? And where are you most likely to find it? And I would say you're going to find a lot more truth in the CDC website than on Facebook.
No, I agree with that. I would be remiss, and people will yell at me if I didn't say, I think also the truth is that mothers are the people who are pregnant and have children. And so it's hard hearing from you, who I know, and I know your journey. I know you love the Lord. That's kind of a hard message. I want to say to you, yes.
Now, to Ed's credit here, he's trying to push him a little bit harder here, even though he's really trying to be on this guy's side. He really wants this guy to say the right thing here. He's getting ready to get shut down. Watch, because Francis Collins ain't about that. He's going to do what he's going to do anyways.
Can you address that in some of your areas that you oversee as well? Because that's true, too. We got to follow the science in multiple places. But again, remember, I'm on Francis Collins' team. I'm trying to answer people who I say, listen, you got to go to the CDC website, believe the truth. And they say, you mean the same CDC website that can't say that mothers are pregnant. So it's harder for us to persuade those conversations. So what I hear you saying.
I'm really sorry that those issues are getting tangled up here, believe me. And I'm not the director of the CDC.
Right.
And I am worried that, in fact, the credibility of some of the things we're trying to say gets all muddied over with some of these other issues that are very controversial. So I totally hear you.
Okay.
All right. So he basically just sidestepped the issue there, ignored it, refuses to denounce it. It's just, it's just something that really, it's our fault for worrying about that and not being able to see past it if things like that we don't agree with. But nonetheless, we should trust them anyway. Now, it was very odd coming from somebody. Now, it's not odd to the discernment community that knows who these people are. But if you're new to this and you were listening to this guy, you would find it very odd that someone who professes to be a conservative Bible-believing Christian refuses to denounce these things. And some more things came to surface, but before we get to that, I want to play for you a video of Russell Moore promoting this guy several months ago. And this is the ERLC and Russell Moore interviewing him. And, Brent Leatherwood, who is now the acting president of the ERLC, who took Russell Moore's job, is conducting this interview and propping this guy up and introducing them. So this is Brent Leatherwood down here on the bottom. If you don't know who he is, that's Russell Moore. And here's Francis Collins. They're going to prop this guy up again. And again, this was back in December, as a matter of fact, before the vaccines actually came out and they were getting close to being released. And Russell Moore is really propping this guy up as a conservative, Bible-believing Christian ally in the medical field. Watch.
And he'll be interviewed today by our president. He is the author of several books, including his most recent one, The Courage to Stand, Facing Your Fear Without Losing Your Soul. He is also a personal friend of Dr. Collins, and I think we will all really benefit from this discussion today. So without further ado, Dr. Moore, the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, Brent. Thank you, Francis, for taking the time to do this. I know in the middle of a whirlwind of activity going on for you. Before we even start, I just want to tell you how happy I am to talk to you. You're someone I respect immensely, not only as a leader and as a scientist, but as a fellow follower of Jesus Christ. And I have to tell you, this might put a little more pressure on you, not that you need any more, but we're part of the same book club. And throughout all of this time of COVID, I felt sometimes almost like when I was a kid and we would be in the car driving through some sort of a rainstorm, and I'm looking to see if Dad looks confident and okay. And so in the middle of all of this time, I would sometimes say, okay, Francis is doing all right and he's in charge of leading us through this. So that means we can all be okay and do our part through this. So I'm just really grateful for your being here and being a part of this.
Oh, thanks, Russell. It is wonderful to be able to have this conversation.
All right. So again, that's Russell Moore and the ERLC promoting this guy as a conservative Christian ally, somebody that we can trust, somebody that we can look up to, somebody that has good advice in the medical field from a Christian biblical perspective. Now, I want to take you to something else. This is from Francis Collins back in June of 2021. This is something he published on the NIH website. Francis Collins, a Bible-believing Christian, published this from him on the NIH website. Now you're going to find out who he really is. From the NIH director, NIH 2021 Pride Month. Dear NIH family, each June, the National Institutes of Health joins the rest of the country in celebrating Pride Month and recognizing the struggles, stories, victories of those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and others under the sexual and gender minority SGM umbrella. I applaud the courage and the resilience it takes for individuals to live openly and authentically. Now look, he applauds the courage that it takes for individuals to live openly and authentically. In other words, he's pro-LGBTQ. A Bible-believing Christian ally of the ERLC is pro-LGBTQ, and not just pro-LGBTQ, but here he is advancing it advancing the ideology that he refused to condemn in that Ed Stetzer interview a few minutes ago. And now we know why. Particularly considering the systemic challenges, discrimination, and even violence that those and other underrepresented groups face all too often. As a white, cisgender, and heterosexual man, I have not had the same experiences. Critical race theory, critical theory, intersectionality. That's what this is, Marxism. The guy's a Marxist. But I am committed to listening, respecting, and supporting those individuals as an ally and advocate. Now, he was supposed to be an ally and advocate of Bible-believing Christians, but is he? No. Right here, he's saying he's an ally of the LGBTQ community, the God-hating, rebellious community, the ones that pervert the grace of God into sensuality, and what did we say before? He's not an ally of He's not an ally of Bible-believing Christians, is he? I know that developing allyship is critical as we continue to make NIH and the world a more inclusive place for all. For that reason, I am excited to share this year's Pride theme, Allyship and Action, which builds on the larger exploration happening within the NIH community on the vital role and responsibility of allies, and how we can leverage allyship in different ways to promote inclusivity in both the workforce and in health. In my view, in his view, the Bible-believing Christian ERLC ally, in his view, the NIH can demonstrate leadership and have a significant and positive impact on the lives of SGM, that's sexual gender minorities, individuals by using science as a form of allyship. Health research, clinical care, and policy should be representative, inclusive, and accessible by and to all SGM individuals, people. The NIH has made significant strides in this regard over the past several years. From 2015 to 2019, our agency saw a 35.6% increase in the number of SGM-related projects. In 2020, NIH released the NIH blah 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 strategic plan research on the health and well-being of sexual and gender minorities, an effort led by the Sexual and Gender Minority Research Office. Isn't he proud of that? And he goes on, here at the NIH, we remain deeply committed to the principles of equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, critical race theory, intersectionality, everything woke you can think of. In our research in our workplace, one of the best ways we can reaffirm our commitment to these principles is by exemplifying our allyship for SGM people through inclusive science. Inclusive science. You know what that is, right? That's calling transgender women who think they're men, instead of calling them mothers, we call them pregnant people or birthing people. That's what inclusive science is when it comes to this stuff. So, look, you can see this is signed by Francis Collins. This is his words. It's got his stamp of approval on it. And now we know who he's really an ally with. We have no doubt that he's an ally with Russell Moore and the ERLC, and now Brent Leatherwood, who's now heading up the ERLC, at least temporarily. But he's not an ally with Bible-believing Christians. But now we know why he refused to denounce this language over at the CDC, because he's all in on it. This guy is who the Southern Baptist leadership is trying to prop up as the man evangelicals need to trust as far as medical tyranny, medical science, whatever you want to call it, vaccines, jabs. This is who we're supposed to trust. A man who calls himself a Bible-believing Christian, on the same religious page as Russell Moore, and who's promoting this kind of garbage. This is garbage. It's what it is. There's nothing Christian about this. There's nothing Christian about what this man believes. By the way, this guy's overseeing several abortion projects as well. You know, they're buying aborted fetuses and, you know, experimenting on them and stuff like that. And implanting or grafting monkey hair on or human hair onto a monkey fetus or vice versa, or something like that came out a while back. And this guy's overseeing that. I mean, there's no ethical objection in this guy's mind, apparently, because this is who he is, you see. All right, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I hope you got something from this. And as always, if you like my channel, like, subscribe, and you can support by clicking the link in the description below. Have a good night.